Motivation is a feeling, and feelings, they fade. You can't rely on something that comes and goes. Some days you'll wake up fired up. Other days you won't even want to get out of bed. That's reality. That's life. But discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline doesn't need inspiration. Discipline is action. It's consistency. It's showing up every single day, whether you're motivated or not. Motivation might get you started, but discipline is what finishes the job. Discipline is what builds greatness. Discipline is what wins. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is permanent. Motivation is like a spark. It flashes. It burns hot for a moment, but then it fades. It dies out. You've felt it before. You watch a video, you hear a speech, you read a line that hits you deep, and suddenly you're ready to conquer the world. In that moment, you feel unstoppable. You start imagining everything you can achieve, everything you can build, everything you can change. But then the sun goes down, you go to sleep, and when you wake up the next morning, that fire is gone. The energy has drained. The excitement has evaporated. That's motivation. It doesn't last. It's a surge, an emotion, a chemical rush in your brain that fools you into thinking it's enough to carry you through the battle, but it won't. Discipline is different. Discipline is permanent because it doesn't depend on emotion. It doesn't depend on mood. It doesn't depend on inspiration. Discipline is a decision, a commitment, a standard you hold yourself to no matter what. Discipline is the alarm clock going off at 4:30 in the morning and you getting up anyway. Discipline is putting your shoes on and going for the run even when your body says stay in bed. Discipline is opening the book, writing the page, lifting the weight, grinding through the work, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline doesn't care about feelings. Discipline only cares about execution. This is why the most successful people in any field aren't the ones who ride the waves of motivation. They are the ones who build their lives around discipline. Because motivation is seasonal, discipline is eternal. Motivation shows up when conditions are perfect. Discipline shows up when conditions are terrible. Motivation is there when it's sunny, when it's convenient, when you're rested and excited. Discipline is there in the rain, in the cold, in the pain, in the days when nothing feels worth it. Motivation will abandon you the moment things get hard. Discipline is the one companion that never leaves. Think about the soldier in the middle of the battlefield. Do you think he's motivated to push forward after days without sleep, after marching miles with heavy gear, after watching his brothers fall beside him? No, he is not motivated. He is disciplined. Discipline is what carries him forward when motivation would have left him behind. Think about the athlete training in silence for years, no crowds, no applause, no recognition. Motivation can't carry someone through that kind of grind. Only discipline can. Think about the entrepreneur building a business, staying up late night after night, facing rejection after rejection. Motivation fades with every setback. Discipline is what makes them continue when everything screams to stop. Motivation will lie to you. It will whisper that you'll get to it tomorrow, that you can wait until you feel ready, that you need the right mood, the right energy, the right circumstances. But tomorrow never comes. Readiness never comes. Circumstances are never perfect. And that's why discipline wins. Because discipline doesn't wait for tomorrow. Discipline doesn't ask for permission. Discipline doesn't need perfect conditions. Discipline executes today in the chaos, in the discomfort, in the doubt. When you understand this, you stop relying on the roller coaster of motivation. You stop chasing the next burst of excitement. You stop expecting to always feel inspired. Instead, you build a system, a routine, a code. You lock into it and you follow it regardless of how you feel. That is discipline. And that is permanent. Discipline works even when motivation disappears. Motivation will always disappear. It comes in waves. It rises and falls. It tricks you into believing that energy and excitement will always be there, but the truth is they never are. Motivation is fragile. It's unreliable. It's built on feelings, and feelings change with the weather. One day you feel unstoppable. The next day you feel like you can't even move. If your entire plan relies on motivation, you're already doomed, because the moment it fades, your actions fade with it. That is why people start strong and quit halfway. That is why they begin with energy, but never finish the mission. They rely on something that was never built to last. Discipline doesn't work that way. Discipline is not tied to how you feel. Discipline doesn't care if you're tired, if you're bored, if you're frustrated, or if you don't feel like it. Discipline is mechanical, consistent, relentless. Discipline is execution without hesitation. It is the decision to follow through no matter what, to move forward whether or not you feel like moving forward. When motivation disappears, discipline takes over. When the excitement is gone, discipline is what keeps your feet moving, your hands working, your mind locked in on the target. That is why discipline outperforms motivation every single time. Picture this: the runner wakes up in the morning. It's raining, it's cold, the body aches. Motivation is nowhere to be found. The bed is warm, the excuses are easy, the desire is gone. But discipline doesn't ask questions, it doesn't negotiate. The shoes go on, the run happens, the work gets done. Not because of motivation, but because of discipline. Motivation would have left you there under the covers. Discipline drags you out and forces progress. This is why people who rely on motivation remain inconsistent, while people who rely on discipline become unstoppable. Motivation is external. It is sparked by something outside of you, a speech, a movie, a song, a moment of excitement. Discipline is internal. It is born from commitment, from standards, from rules you refuse to break. Motivation disappears in the face of resistance. Discipline endures resistance. Motivation is fueled by comfort. Discipline thrives in discomfort. Motivation vanishes when things get ugly. Discipline grows stronger in the ugliness. Think about anyone who has achieved mastery. The musician who practices scales for hours every single day, even when the joy is gone. The fighter who trains in silence long after the crowd has left the gym. The student who studies late into the night when their energy is drained. None of them are relying on motivation in those moments. They are powered by discipline, because discipline doesn't care that the excitement has vanished. It doesn't care that the fuel is low. It doesn't care that no one is watching. It works anyway. And this is the secret that most people never want to hear. You cannot depend on motivation to carry you through life. If you wait to feel like doing the work, you will waste years waiting. If you wait for the right mood, the right spark, the right rush of energy, you will lose, because it will not always come. But discipline doesn't require it. Discipline doesn't ask for energy. It doesn't need inspiration. It doesn't even need you to want it. Discipline requires only one thing: action. And once you act, momentum builds. Once you show up, progress happens. And once progress happens, you move closer to your goal regardless of whether you were motivated or not. Feelings don't matter, actions do. Feelings are unpredictable, unreliable, and unstable. They rise and fall based on circumstances you can't always control. One moment you feel powerful, the next moment you feel weak. One moment you feel confident, the next moment doubt creeps in. If you live your life by feelings, you will always be at the mercy of your emotions, tossed around by every high and low. That's why people start something with energy and quit when it gets uncomfortable. That's why people talk about their goals but never execute them. They rely on feelings to carry them, and feelings are not strong enough to carry anyone to greatness. Actions, on the other hand, are not tied to emotion. Actions can be chosen. Actions can be disciplined. Actions can be repeated until they become habits, until they become part of who you are. It doesn't matter if you feel tired. If you take action, you move forward. It doesn't matter if you feel discouraged. If you take action, you still make progress. It doesn't matter if you feel uninspired. If you take action, you still build momentum. The truth is simple. The world does not reward what you feel. It rewards what you do. Think about the soldier on deployment. Do you think he feels like going on patrol after days without sleep, with gear weighing him down, with danger at every corner? No. His feelings would tell him to rest, to stop, to quit. But his actions push him forward because the mission depends on it. Think about the athlete training before the sun rises day after day. Do you think he feels like putting in hours of pain, sweat, and exhaustion? Feelings would tell him to stay in bed. But but his actions drag him into the gym, onto the track, into the fight. Think about the student who stays up all night preparing for an exam, reading the same pages over and over until exhaustion blurs the words. Do you think she feels excited? Her feelings scream to give up, but her actions keep her moving, and those actions separate her from the rest. Feelings are fleeting, actions create results. You can feel motivated, but never act, and nothing changes. You can feel inspired, but never move, and your life remains the same. You can feel like you deserve more, but until you act, you'll never have more. On the other side, you can feel tired but still push through, and you'll be further ahead. You can feel afraid but still step forward, and you'll discover courage. You can feel hopeless but still take action, and you'll find strength you didn't know existed. Actions transform you in ways feelings never can. Feelings are personal, private, invisible to the world. No one can see how you feel. No one can measure your emotions. But actions are visible, measurable, undeniable. The weights you lift, the miles you run, the projects you complete, the sacrifices you make, those are actions. Those are the things the world recognizes, respects, and rewards. You can't build a legacy on feelings. You can't win battles with emotions. You can't change your life with mood swings, but you can do all of that with consistent, relentless, disciplined action. This is why relying on feelings is dangerous. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll never start. If you wait until you feel brave, you'll never take the risk. If you wait until you feel motivated, you'll never finish the mission. Waiting on feelings is waiting on weakness. Choosing action is choosing strength. Every great accomplishment has been built not on what someone felt like doing, but on what they forced themselves to do regardless of how they felt. Discipline builds habits. Habits build results. Discipline is the foundation, the starting point, the spark that creates consistency. It begins with a single decision repeated again and again until it no longer feels like a decision, but a natural part of who you are. At first, discipline feels heavy. It feels forced. It feels like you're pushing yourself against resistance every single day. Waking up early when the bed is warm is not easy. Saying no to distractions when your mind craves comfort is not easy. Sticking to the plan when everything around you pulls you away is not easy. But every time you choose discipline, you are laying down a brick, building a path, shaping a habit. Habits are formed when discipline repeats itself. One disciplined act doesn't change much, but discipline carried out day after day begins to ingrain itself into your identity. When you wake up early every morning, at first it's a struggle, but after weeks and months, it becomes normal. When you train every day, at first it's painful, but eventually it becomes routine. When you work on your craft consistently, at first it feels like effort, but eventually it feels like breathing. That is the power of discipline. It transforms effort into instinct. It hardwires behaviors into your system so you no longer need to rely on willpower because the habit takes over. And once the habit is built, the results begin to compound. Results are not created overnight. Results are not created in a single burst of effort. Results are the byproduct of habits that are repeated for months, for years, for decades. The body you want is not built from one workout fueled by motivation. It is built from years of disciplined training that became habit. The success you want in business is not built from one late night of work. It is built from years of disciplined focus that became habit. The knowledge you want is not built from reading one book. It is built from years of disciplined study that became habit. Habits make success inevitable. When something becomes habit, it no longer requires constant thought or decision. You don't argue with yourself about whether to do it. You just do it. You don't negotiate, you don't delay, you don't question, you execute. And with execution comes progress. Progress repeated becomes results. The world sees the results, but they don't see the habits. They don't see the hours of repetition, the sacrifices made, the discipline carried out in silence. They only see the outcome, but the outcome is nothing more than the shadow of the habits behind it. And those habits were born from discipline. This is why discipline is the key. Without discipline, there are no habits. Without habits, there are no results. Motivation may get you started, but motivation cannot build habits. Motivation is too inconsistent, too fleeting. Only discipline has the strength to repeat action long enough for it to hardwire into your life. And once it does, the results are inevitable. They may come slowly, they may come quietly, but they will come because habits are the machinery of success and discipline is the engineer that builds them. Every great achievement is rooted in this process. The disciplined act repeated, becoming habit. The habit repeated, producing results. The results repeated, building greatness. That is how progress is made. That is how victories are won. That is how lives are transformed. Motivation is the spark. Discipline is the fire. A spark is bright, quick, and exciting. It grabs your attention. It makes you feel something powerful in the moment. That's what motivation does. It hits you. It ignites you. It fills you with energy for a short burst of time. You watch a powerful speech. You see someone succeed. You imagine what's possible for yourself. And in that instant, you feel alive. You feel ready to move, ready to change, ready to push. But just like a spark, motivation fades quickly. It flashes and then it dies unless something else is there to catch it and keep it burning. That something is discipline. Discipline is the fire. It's not quick. It's not flashy. It's not dramatic. It's steady, relentless, consuming. Fire lasts because it is fed continuously, not because it flares once. In the same way, discipline lasts because it is built on consistent action, not on fleeting feelings. Discipline doesn't wait for the excitement of the spark. It takes the spark and turns it into fuel. It takes that temporary surge of motivation and transforms it into long-term energy that keeps burning day after day. Motivation can get you off the couch once. Discipline keeps you off the couch every day. Motivation can make you sign up for the gym. Discipline is what gets you through the door when you're sore, when you're tired, when you don't feel like it. Motivation can make you write the first page of a book. Discipline is what makes you finish the last page. Motivation can inspire you to chase a dream. Discipline is what makes you achieve it. The spark gets you started, but the fire keeps you alive. The difference between people who succeed and people who fail is not that the successful ones feel more motivated. Everyone feels motivated sometimes. Everyone has sparks of energy, flashes of excitement, bursts of inspiration. The difference is that successful people know sparks don't last, so they build fire, they build discipline, they create systems and routines that carry them when motivation is gone. Because motivation is unreliable, but discipline can be trusted. Motivation comes when conditions are good, but discipline shows up even when conditions are terrible. Motivation is the start of the journey, but discipline is the road itself. Think of the soldier in training. The spark might come from the idea of wearing the uniform, serving with honor, becoming stronger. But the fire is in the endless drills, the sleepless nights, the discipline that breaks down weakness and builds up resilience. Think of the athlete. The spark might come from dreaming of winning, hearing the crowd cheer, seeing the trophy. But the fire is in the daily grind, the sweat, the pain, the hours of unseen practice. Think of the creator. The spark might come from a vision, a new idea, a sudden flash of inspiration. But the fire is in the relentless discipline of putting in the work every day. Even when the inspiration is gone, the spark feels good, but it is not enough. A spark without fire burns out, disappears, and leaves you with nothing. That's why so many people start and never finish. They get the spark, they get the feeling, but they never build the fire. They wait for another spark instead of feeding the flames with discipline. But the ones who win, the ones who rise, the ones who change their lives, they use the spark as a beginning, then they build the fire with action, with repetition, with consistency. And the fire burns long after the spark is gone. Discipline equals freedom. At first, it sounds like a contradiction. People think discipline is restriction, control, limitation. They think discipline means saying no, living rigidly, giving up fun and freedom. But that's a shallow view. True discipline is not about taking freedom away, it's about creating it. Discipline gives you control over your time, your energy, your choices. Without discipline, you are not free. You are a slave to your impulses, your moods, your distractions. You are controlled by what feels good in the moment instead of what builds strength in the long run. Real freedom only exists when you take command of yourself, and that command comes through discipline. When you practice discipline, you create habits that protect you from chaos. Waking up early is discipline, but the freedom is having more hours in your day. Training your body is discipline, but the freedom is having health, strength, and energy to live the way you want. Controlling your spending is discipline, but the freedom is being financially independent, not chained to debt or stress. Working hard on your craft is discipline, but the freedom is being excellent, respected, and capable of building the life you choose. The outside world sees the rules, the structure, the effort. You feel the freedom those rules create. Without discipline, life feels easier in the moment, but harder in the long run. Sleeping in feels good now, but costs you opportunities. Skipping workouts feels comfortable now, but costs you health. Wasting time feels relaxing now, but costs you progress. Indulging in bad habits feels satisfying now, but costs you your future. Lack of discipline is choosing short-term comfort and paying for it with long-term pain. Discipline is choosing short-term effort and being rewarded with long-term freedom. Look at the soldier. Discipline forces him to train relentlessly, to follow orders, to master drills. On the surface, it looks like control. But when chaos breaks out on the battlefield, his discipline gives him freedom. The freedom to act with clarity, the freedom to survive, the freedom to win. Look at the athlete. Discipline forces her to train when no one is watching, to sacrifice comforts to endure pain. But when the competition comes, she has freedom, the freedom to dominate, the freedom to perform at her peak, the freedom to seize victory. Look at the leader. Discipline forces him to wake early, to study, to prepare. But in the moment of crisis, he has freedom, the freedom to lead with confidence, the freedom to make decisions that others cannot. Freedom without discipline is an illusion. People chase comfort thinking it will give them freedom, but it only traps them deeper. Comfort makes you weak, laziness makes you dependent, lack of discipline robs you of control. You think you are free when you indulge every impulse, but really you are chained to them. The only way to break those chains is through discipline. Discipline gives you strength over yourself, and that strength is freedom. Every area of life proves this truth. Physical freedom comes from the discipline of training. Financial freedom comes from the discipline of saving and investing. Mental freedom comes from the discipline of focus and control. Spiritual freedom comes from the discipline of living by principles. Discipline builds structure, and structure builds stability. With stability, you are free to move, free to choose, free to live fully. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom, it is the foundation of it.